First contact fears. The stars had always been a source of wonder and opportunity for the Galactic Alliance. For 30,000 cycles, the 12 most advanced species had maintained a delicate harmony across 17 spiral arms, trading resources and knowledge while expanding their collective influence. Wars were relegated to history texts, disputes settled through the Grand Council's arbiter drones. It was an age of unprecedented peace. Fleet Commander Zix Terrell of the Viridian Conclave observed the holographic display from the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, his 4 compound eyes simultaneously tracking different data streams. His exoskeleton gleamed under the soft blue lighting as he chittered thoughtfully to his crew. "The anomaly persists," he announced, mandibles clicking with concern. 76 hours, and the signal has not diminished or changed its pattern. His second-in-command, Kyle, approached with fluid grace, her translucent tendrils pulsing with bioluminescent concern. "The Council demands answers, Commander. They've dispatched 3 additional Sentinel ships to our position." Zix Terrell's antennae twitched. This was unusual. The Council rarely committed resources without extensive deliberation. The signal originates from the void sectors, beyond our established territories. No registered species maintains outposts there. "Perhaps unregistered species, then," Kyle suggested, her voice a melodic ripple. The commander's chitin plates shifted uncomfortably. "The void sectors were quarantined for a reason, Kyle. The ancient warnings are quite specific." The signal had first appeared as a faint electromagnetic disturbance, barely distinguishable from cosmic background radiation. But its persistence and perfect, repeating pattern suggested artificial origin. It beckoned from a region of space that the Alliance had deliberately avoided for millennia. When the reinforcements arrived, Zix Terrell led the small fleet toward the signal source. They traveled cautiously, running passive scans only, careful not to broadcast their presence. As they crossed into the uncharted territory, the crew grew increasingly anxious. "Commander, we're detecting a massive object at coordinates 37 to 9214, reported the sensor officer, a Mantillion whose crystalline body refracted light in agitated patterns. It's a vessel, but the design matches nothing in our archives." The view screen adjusted to display a distant silhouette against the backdrop of a pale nebula. The ship was angular, utilitarian, with no aesthetic considerations in its design. Protrusions that could only be weapon emplacements dotted its hull, and enormous engine clusters suggested incredible propulsion capabilities. "Magnify," ordered Zix Terrell. As the image clarified, a collective gasp rippled through the bridge. There, emblazoned on the hull in faded but unmistakable symbols, was a marking that sent ice through Zix Terrell's hemolymph. "Impossible," whispered Kyle. The marking was simple: a circle with radiating lines, a stylized star. Below it, in an ancient script recognized only by the Alliance's deepest archives, was a word that had not been spoken aloud in council chambers for thousands of cycles. "Earth." Zix Terrell's mandibles clacked rapidly in distress. "Secure channel to the Council. Priority Omega." The response was immediate and unprecedented. The highest-ranking members of all 12 species materialized as holograms on the bridge, their forms shimmering with urgency. "Is it confirmed?" asked the Archon of the Solarian Collective, her crystalline form pulsing with alarmed frequencies. "Yes, Archon," replied Zix Terrell. "The vessel bears Earth markings. It appears to be human." The word hung in the recycled air like a toxin. Humans. The species that should not exist anymore. The civilization that the oldest Alliance records described in warnings rather than histories. The Grand Minister of the Proxima Hegemony, a gaseous entity contained within an ornic mechanical shell, expanded anxiously. "This cannot be." The quarantine protocols were absolute. The human homeworld was isolated, their early interstellar capabilities dismantled. They should be confined to their star system for at least another millennium. "Evidently," said Zix Terrell, "they are not." The Council debated furiously, their voices overlapping as ancient contingency plans were excavated from secure archives. Meanwhile, the human vessel remained motionless, seemingly unaware of or unconcerned by the Alliance fleet's presence. "We must establish communication," said Kyle suddenly, interrupting the Council's deliberations. If they intended hostility, they would have acted already. Reluctantly, the Council authorized a standard greeting package, a basic mathematical sequence establishing intelligence, followed by simplified visual representations of the Alliance species and an invitation to respond in kind. The human vessel's response came with alarming speed, suggesting advanced processing capabilities. Their return message was direct and chilling in its simplicity. Alliance vessels identified. Maintain QRRENT position. Attempts to AP HFYLBE considered hostile action. The translation matrices struggled with the unfamiliar linguistic patterns, but the meaning was clear. The humans were not interested in diplomatic niceties. "They're scanning us," reported the sensor officer suddenly. "Penetrating scans. They're mapping our internal systems, weapons capabilities, crew composition. Our countermeasures are ineffective." Zix Terrell felt his exoskeleton constrict with ancient, instinctual fear. The old stories warned of human unpredictability, their biological irrationality, their willingness to sacrifice and destroy in pursuit of advantage. But they had been primitive then, barely achieving rudimentary space travel. This vessel suggested technological advancement far beyond projections. "Commander," called out the tactical officer, multiple new contacts emerging from the nebula. The view screen shifted to show a dozen sleek, predatory vessels surrounding the Alliance fleet. Their design was unlike the human warship, organic and flowing rather than angular and utilitarian. "Unknown configuration," reported the tactical officer. "They're powering weapons." Before Zix Terrell could issue orders, the newcomers opened fire, not on the Alliance ships, but on the human vessel. Energy beams of coruscating violet lashed out, only to disperse harmlessly against an invisible barrier surrounding the Earth ship. Then the humans responded. The warship's surface rippled as hidden compartments opened, revealing weapon systems of terrifying sophistication. What followed was not the indiscriminate destruction Zix Terrell expected from the ancient warning tales, but precise, calculated retaliation. Each human weapon strike disabled rather than destroyed, targeting propulsion and weapons systems with surgical accuracy. "They're protecting us," Kyle whispered, her bioluminescence pulsing with confusion. As the battle unfolded with brutal efficiency, the Council's holograms watched in stunned silence. Within minutes, the attacking vessels were neutralized, drifting powerless but intact. A new message appeared from the human warship. "Alliance vessels. These are harvesters. They hunt sentient species for biological components. We have BBENTRACKing them. Hor 3 of your CYCLES. You were ABO2T2BC main their PRAI." Zix Terrell's antennae quivered as realization dawned. The humans hadn't revealed themselves to threaten the Alliance. They had emerged to save it from a threat it hadn't even detected. "Request permission to approach and open direct communications," Zix Terrell addressed the Council. After a moment of tense silence, the Archon nodded. "Granted, but proceed with extreme caution, Commander." The ancient warnings about humans emphasized one trait above all others. They are unpredictable. As the eternal vigilance moved cautiously toward the human vessel, Zix Terrell pondered the irony. The species the Alliance had feared and isolated for millennia had just saved them from annihilation. "Preparing communication link," announced Kyle. The view screen flickered, and for the first time in recorded Alliance history, representatives of 12 advanced civilizations gazed upon the face of a living human. The human factor. Captain Elena Vostok of the Earth warship Retribution regarded the alien delegation with practiced neutrality. Behind her impassive expression, Her mind calculated probabilities and assessed threats with military precision. 2 decades commanding humanity's deep space reconnaissance had taught her to expect the unexpected, but even she found the current situation surreal. "Your intervention against the harvesters saved our fleet," said the insectoid alien. Commander Zixterel, according to the translator. "The Alliance owes you a debt of gratitude." Elena allowed herself a slight nod. The harvesters represent a threat to all sentient life. Our response would have been the same regardless of which species they targeted. The statement wasn't entirely truthful. After discovering that the mysterious Galactic Alliance had deliberately quarantined Earth millennia ago, preventing humanity's early spacefaring efforts, many in the United Earth government had advocated for retribution rather than cooperation. But encountering the harvesters had changed priorities. "Our historical records suggest your species should be confined to your home system," said another alien, this one a shimmering, translucent being. "Your technological advancement exceeds all projections." Elena smiled thinly. Necessity drives innovation, and humans have always responded well to challenges. When your alliance abandoned Earth to isolation, you created the perfect pressure cooker for technological development. The aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. At least, those with recognizable facial structures did. The others pulsed with wavelengths that Elena's neural implants interpreted as anxiety. "The quarantine was implemented for the safety of all species," explained Zixterel. "Ancient encounters with humans suggested your species was too unpredictable, too aggressive for peaceful galactic coexistence." Elena leaned forward. "Those ancient encounters occurred when humanity was in its infancy. We've evolved considerably since then." "Evidently," agreed Zixterel. "But the question remains, why reveal yourselves now, after successfully evading detection for so long?" The human captain activated a holographic display showing the spread of harvester activity across the galaxy, a cancer growing unchecked, with the Alliance territories directly in its path. "Because the harvesters cannot be defeated by either of us alone," Elena stated plainly. "And while humanity might survive their onslaught by remaining hidden, the same cannot be said for your alliance." The Alliance delegation processed this information with visible discomfort. The idea that they needed protection from a quarantined species challenged their fundamental understanding of galactic hierarchy. "We have monitored Alliance communications for decades," Elena continued. "Your civilization excels at maintenance and incremental improvement, but lacks the adaptive creativity needed to counter an enemy like the harvesters. Meanwhile, humanity specializes in asymmetric problem-solving and technological leaps." "You speak of complementary strengths," observed Kyle, her translucent form pulsing thoughtfully. "Precisely," said Elena, "which is why I'm authorized to offer a conditional alliance against our common enemy." The negotiations that followed were tense and complex. Elena introduced the Alliance representatives to Admiral Marcus Chen, appearing via quantum projection from the hidden human fleet stationed at the edge of charted space. The revelation that humans had constructed not just one advanced warship, but an entire battle-ready armada sent shockwaves through the Alliance leadership. Yet the most difficult moment came when the true nature of the harvester threat was revealed. Human intelligence had discovered that the harvesters weren't simply collecting biological components. They were constructing something. A vast artificial intelligence composed of neural tissue harvested from sentient species across multiple galaxies. "The Alliance prides itself on stability and predictability," Admiral Chen explained. "But those very qualities make you perfect targets. The harvesters know exactly where to find you and how you'll respond. While humans," added Elena, "are evolutionary specialists in unpredictability. We change tactics, break patterns, and innovate under pressure. The harvesters find us difficult to digest." 3 days later, as the joint planning sessions continued aboard the Alliance flagship, alarm sirens shattered the artificial calm. A massive harvester mothership had appeared at the edge of the system, accompanied by hundreds of smaller vessels. "Evacuation protocols," ordered Zixterel immediately. "We cannot stand against such numbers." But Captain Vostok countermanded the order with quiet authority. "Belay that. This is exactly the opportunity we need." When Zix Terrell protested, Alina explained the human battle plan, a strategy so unconventional that the Alliance tactical officers initially dismissed it as suicidal. Instead of retreating from superior numbers, the human vessels would charge directly at the Harvester mothership while deploying a newly developed technology, quantum displacement mines. "The mines don't destroy," Alina explained. "They temporarily phase shift organic matter into a parallel dimensional state." "You intend to remove the harvesters from their own ships?" asked Kyle, her bioluminescence flickering with disbelief. "Precisely," said Alina. "Empty vessels are much easier to capture and study." What followed became legend throughout the Alliance. The human warships, smaller and seemingly outmatched, executed maneuvers that defied conventional physics. They utilized attack formations that appeared chaotic, but revealed themselves as brilliantly coordinated. Where Alliance vessels would have maintained orderly, predictable patterns, the humans broke every rule of engagement. From the Alliance flagship, Zix Terrell watched in astonishment as Captain Vostok personally led a boarding party onto the Harvester mothership after the quantum mines had done their work. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, securing the vessel and its databases within hours. "You must understand," Alina explained afterward, as Alliance scientists pored over the captured Harvester technology. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We don't outrun our prey, we outlast them. We don't outmuscle our enemies, we outthink them." The Alliance Council, convened in emergency session, listened as Admiral Chen outlined the next phase of the human strategy against the Harvesters. It involved cooperation on an unprecedented scale, combining Alliance resources with human ingenuity. "For thousands of cycles we feared the return of humanity to galactic affairs," acknowledged the Archon. "We believe your species too dangerous, too unpredictable for peaceful coexistence." "And you weren't entirely wrong," admitted Admiral Chen with surprising candor. "Humanity can be dangerous. Our history is filled with conflict, but we've learned that our greatest strength emerges when we have something worth protecting." The agreement that followed, the Human Alliance Cooperative Defense Pact, represented the first step toward a new galactic order. The quarantine that had isolated Earth for millennia was officially lifted, and human representatives were invited to join the Grand Council. As Captain Vostok prepared to return to her ship, Commander Zix Terrell approached her privately. "There is something I must know," he said, mandibles clicking nervously. "If the Alliance had refused cooperation, what would humanity have done?" Alina considered the question carefully. "We would have protected you anyway," she said finally. "Not because we've become saints, Commander, but because we've learned that survival, true, meaningful survival, isn't about outlasting everyone else. It's about ensuring that life itself continues." As the human warship departed, its powerful engines glowing against the blackness of space, Zix Terrell reflected on the ancient warnings about humanity. They had described humans as dangerous, unpredictable, and aggressive. And those descriptions weren't wrong. What the warnings had failed to mention was that those same qualities, tempered by time and guided by wisdom, might be exactly what the galaxy needed to survive. The Harvesters had spent millennia preying on predictable, stable civilizations. Now they would learn what it meant to face humanity, a species that had turned unpredictability into an art form and survival into a sacred mission. And that, Zix Terrell realized, was far more terrifying for the enemy than for allies.